Presenting Task Track RPG, a project by Marcus Luis Santos, Calvin Pugay, and Mai Tao. Hello, everyone. My name is Luis Santos, and I am the project's benevolent dictator for life.
Hi everyone, my name is Mai. I'm Dreamsweet C++ artist and coder.
Hello guys, I'm Calvin Fugai. Say whatever and your role in the project.
Introducing Task Track RPG! Yay! So, why Task Track RPG? Many people, particularly those with ADHD, find it hard to stay motivated and complete tasks. To address this, we have developed the idea of Task Track RPG, in short, TTRPG, a C++ program that rewards players for completing real-life tasks, turning them into a fun challenge. Now you may be wondering, Luis, why do you want to make such a complicated game for a collegiate level project? I don't know, to be honest. I knew it was going to be hard, and so I just said, meh, this project is going to be my one step towards my passion for helping people while doing what I love to do, programming. So I might as well take it beyond the semester. So, TaskTrack RPG is a task management program with an RPG game element mixed into it. The player will be asked to input a task they want to do in real life. It can range from simple to gruesome tasks that feel dreadful to do, writing a journal, taking out the trash, meditation if you will. As long as you're doing something productive, you are on the right track. For now, I can input something as simple as this. Let's go create a new task. We're gonna do watch dawn, and then that's all we want to enter. So yes, and let's say it takes 23 minutes. It's not that hard to do of a task, so we're only gonna do 20. The task has been created. Our stats, we still have 100 HP and 1000 potatoes. View all tasks, we can see that I have not yet attempted watch down the dawn. And so, what if we try to attempt it now? Say watch down the dawn, and the task of the name. For now, we only have to type the whole thing. Please attempt the task and indicate if you succeeded or failed. And then, theoretically, I will wait 23 minutes for this program to count to 23 minutes. So, I'm not gonna do that. We're just gonna do success and luck. It says 16.79 seconds. If I were to actually watch it through the duration, we're gonna have 23 minutes instead of 16.79 seconds. So we gained 20 potatoes for this one. If we view our stats again, we can see that we have 1020 potatoes.
One way that we use this program for myself is if I wanted to read a book or novel or BL, I'll start by creating a new task, which I would then input read a world without hate. I want to read my possibly new favorite story. It's not finished, but that's the suspense and charm of it. It will take me a bit to actually sit through all my reading, so I will set a difficulty of 50. We can then check if we have the task successfully posted on our view task. We then can proceed and attempt our task. Be right back. So we successfully did our task, and it took us about 15 minutes. We have our potatoes, and we can double check with our stats menu.
So this is an overview of the libraries and header files we include in this project. So for IOStream, we use cin and cout. For IOmanip, we use setw and left for indentation and formatting. For the string library, we use getLine, sizeof, and st_i for things such as taking user input and validating it. We use the vector library for storing elements such as our in-game items, character attributes, and entities with different properties. We use the random for the casino and enemy encounters so that they appear in random sequences. For time.h, we used it to time the player the moment they attempt a task. And chrono and thread were used with their appropriate namespaces so that we have better manipulation of the time the text appear in the game.
So, starting at main function, we first initialize a constant of 3 for the number of stats there are in the program. Here, we named it numStats. We then initialize integer variables for choice, potatoes, and the elements inside of attributes array with size numStats, which is a constant of 3. For demonstration purposes, we will set potatoes to 1000 for now. The attribute names will be attack, defense, and HP. And such, any modifications made to the player's attributes, it will have to access in the order in which these attribute names are positioned. First element in the array is attack, second element is defense, and the third being the HP. We will then have vector elements of string and integers. So, in this do while loop, we will be presenting with you a flowchart. It will start a program main. It will then display the menu, and it will ask for the user input. In a switch statement, it will be providing 7 cases, in which the 8th case will be the default, and that will exit the program. In case 1, it will ask you to view the stats. Case 2, view task. Case 3, display the shop. Case 4, create a task. Case 5, go to the casino. Case 6, do the task, attempt a task. And case 7, proceed to an adventure.
So for input validation functions, we have 2 main functions. This first one is going to be int check. It takes the user's input as a string and then 2 other integers for minimum and maximum values. The first thing that it does is declare a boolean named valid, and in a do while loop, valid is set to 0. Then in a for loop, for I equals 0 and until I equals the size of the input itself, we run an if statement, basically running through every possible digit value from 0 to 9. And if it does contain a digit, valid is going to be set to 1. Otherwise, if at any point the input is not a digit, valid is set to 0 and it actually breaks from this for loop. Then, if the input is valid and the input converted to an integer is greater than the minimum but less than the maximum, it will actually return the value back to the calling function. Otherwise, it's going to keep asking for this value again from the minimum to the maximum. And then the second input validation function is ynCheck. So basically, it's called whenever so you ask for y or n to be inputted. So what this does, it also sets boolean valid, but this time it sets it equal to 1. It checks if the input size is equal to 1, and if not, valid equals 0. Otherwise, if it doesn't equal y, capital Y, n, or capital N, valid is equal to 0. And if it's not valid, it's just going to ask you for y or n again. Basically, it'll keep running until it gets y or n. Okay. So this is the function void create task. It takes in the arguments string new task, string vector of all tasks, integer vector difficulty, and integer vector of status. So the first thing that it does is declare 2 boolean values, sure equals 0 and valid equals 0. This inner do while loop is for while not sure. And then here it asks the user to enter a new task. It gets that input, and then what it does is here it checks if there's any white space. And if there is white space, then it's still not valid. It's going to ask for it again. If it is a valid input, valid now equals 1, and it's going to print out what the user actually entered, and then it's going to ask to confirm from the user if that's what they wanted to enter. And if the user enters y, sure is now going to equal 1. It's going to exit from this do while loop. It's going to push back whatever they entered into the vector all tasks. And then assign diff, basically it's going to ask the user to assign a difficulty to the task, and then check for an integer, and then push back that difficulty value, and also push back a status value of 0, which indicates an unfinished task, and then the task has been created. So this is the function void view tasks. It takes in 3 vector inputs: string all task, integer difficulty, and integer status. The first thing it does is clear the screen, and then if the all task size actually equals 0, it's going to prompt the user to enter a task in the create task function. But if the vector is actually not equal to 0, it's going to first see out. All of this is for formatting, but it's going to do task, difficulty, and the status of each task. And then this switch statement here, basically status, and status is text. 0 equals not attempted, 1 equals completed, and 2 equals attempted, which is another word for failed. And then here at the bottom, it's going to print all the tasks, the difficulties, and the status as text as decided by the switch statement down here. So this is the function doTask. It takes the vector of all tasks, their difficulties and their status, as well as the amount of potatoes the player has. The first thing it does is it checks if you actually have tasks to do, and if you don't, then it returns back to the menu. If you do, then it'll display all of the tasks and then ask you which tasks you'd like to do. And then here, what it's doing here for valid and redo, basically if you entered a valid task that's in the list, then valid equals 1. If that task has already been done, then redo equals 1. And then what this if statement is doing is, if that task has already been done, it's going to say that it's already been completed. And if the user still wants to do the task, then it's going to go on. If the user entered an invalid task, it's going to prompt the user to enter this again. And once the user enters a valid task, the clock is going to start running. And then once the user does this task or fails it, they can enter fail or success. And of course, if it's not a valid input, it'll say that. If the user succeeded the task, the timer is going to stop, and the amount of time is going to be displayed depending on how long it took. And then they'll be awarded potatoes based on the difficulty of this task. If the user enters fail, it's going to say the user's failed this task. It's going to set the status to 2, meaning they failed the task, and then they're going to lose potatoes based on half of the difficulty of the task. If they didn't have enough potatoes, they'll have 0 potatoes instead.
Okay, now for the display shop function, it will be taking in the parameters potato, attributes, and numstats. We will have to use the struct item, and we will be using that to define weapon, armor, artifacts, and potions. All of them will not be available at the moment, but in the future, they will be. And this struct will have the name variable, description, cost, attack, defense, and HP. With each of them, with every one of them being a vector. For example, if the 0th element of each vector, we have lapis, and the 0th element of name is lapis. 0th element of description is everyone starts with a trusty weapon. Not you though, you get a wooden pencil. Doesn't do anything special, it's just to attack. And then it will have 0 cost because it's your starting item. It will have an attack power of 20, so don't forget to buy it before you go to an adventure. It will have no weapon defense because, for obvious reasons, it will not give you HP neither. You will have item armor, item artifact, and item potion. Each of them will come at a price, of course, so you'll have to do your tasks, or you can defeat monsters. After that, you will be given the options from 1 to 5. If you want to buy weapons, armor, artifacts, potions, consumables, and you can press 5 to go back. It will also have to display the amount of potatoes you have right now, just in case you forget. and then you'll be given a choice, and then the by function will then be called.
So this is the void by function, which is called in the shop function. It takes the same arguments as the shop function, except for it also takes the item type. So the first thing that it does is it does a for loop that prints out all the items. Of course, we have press 5 to go back as well. And then it declares a string user item view and by item. Here we use the user item view to get the choice of which item the user would like to get. Of course, and that is validated with int check. And then for I equals 0, I is less than 5, it basically checks for whichever item that the user selected. And based on that item, it prints out the name, the description, the cost in potatoes, and then it asks for Y or N if the user wants to buy it. If the user selected Y and they had enough potatoes, then they now have that item. But if they don't have enough potatoes, it actually says that, and then it breaks from the function. When they get their item, it gives them attributes based on the attribute specified by the item. So that's what these 3 if statements do. Here, if the user entered 5, initially it'll actually display the shop again and then break. Yeah, so that is the by function. So this is the void view stats function. It takes the integer number of stats as well as the integer array attributes, the amount of potatoes, as well as the attribute names. The first thing it does is clear the screen for readability, and then see out stats in all caps, and then a for loop for all of the number of stats there are. And then in that for loop, it see out the attribute name, the attribute values as well. After it's done with that for loop, it prints out the number of potatoes and does a system pause.
Hey, hi, to start with, this is some functions, the main casino functions menu, and it helps keep track of how many potatoes the players has. Potato is our currency and our init choice right here. This is a variable to store what the player wants to do in the casino. Our loop is do, and do is a loop that will keep showing the casino menu until the player decides to exit. This part right here, right in the middle where we start typing plots, this will be the part where the casino menu tells the player how many potatoes they have plus a list of available games. If we go into the string input right there, this in the get line, this will take the player's menu choice as a string for validation. If we go to the check init check input 1 4, this is supposed to validate the input. So for example, the casino will validate the input between 1 and 3 because it's only 1 to 4. Onto our next continuation on the right, the switch choice in the case 1, case 2, case 3 part, this will be the part where it generates choices and is based on the player's choice. It will start with 1, the start of the slot machine, 2, start of the dice roll game, or 3, exit the casino and end the loop. And on to the next one. For this part, we will go into the slot game machine area of the code, where for the void play slot machine init potato, this part will be the function that run the slot machine game. And overall, if we go to if potatoes equal 0, this class area, this will show that if the player has no potatoes, the game ends with a message, no potatoes, get out. Let's enter your bet, this next part right here, and then this will show the next line within ask the player to enter the amount of potatoes they wish to bet, then check if the input is valid and save it. On to the next line, this will deduct the amount of potatoes from the players that they have so far if they do get it wrong. This next part will be generating 3 random numbers right here, 3 random numbers. from 1 to 10 and act as the slot machine results. Okay, and then on to the next. This part right here, it will display the slots. So this will display the slot results. In other words, this will generate whether the players hit a jackpot, partial winnings, or no winnings at all. And then we will go on to the dice game function. The dice game function, this void play dice roll, this function will run the dice roll game. And if we go into the if potato equals no potatoes, get out. This player has no potatoes, and so the game will end. And if we go to clouds, enter your bet, get line, valid bet, and a check. This part would then ask the player how much they want to bet and validate the input. Okay. Cloud guess. On to the next part, if it goes to cloud guess on get line, this part will then ask the players the outcome of the dice rolls to guess the outcome, and then it will validate the guesses. Based on that, this part would then on the potato valid bet, it would then deduct the bet from the players' total potatoes. This would then the init dice roll. This would then roll the dice and show the results with a random number between 1 and 6. Okay. If we go on to the next if statement, the if guess dice roll, this will it will generate the guess matches of the dice roll. Then the player will win. If they do win, they will win 6 times the amount of their bet, but otherwise they just lose and go home sad. Onto the slot machine display. Okay, this is the slot machine display. This part is really just to display the slot machine results in like a physical visual format. That's pretty much it. Okay.
The following concept art were made by Mai, and these were supposed to be implemented using STL into the game. These are concept art such as characters, in-game items such as weapons, armors, etc. Thank you for watching.